Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so thrilled to have Afrikan Boy, aka Olusola Ajose, or AB, with us for this edition of Thinking About, especially in remembrance of and commemoration of Black History Month. So most of you will know AB as a grime artist and MC, and I'm just going to give a very brief introduction to some of his work and to some of the ways that we'll be focusing on this. But before I do that, I'd also like to say hello and welcome to Ekow, Fikayomi and Eashan, who will be on our panel today and asking some questions of AB and helping the conversation to develop. So an early breakthrough for AB came in 2007 when Hustle was included from the MIA album Color, and AB was one of the initial artists MIA signed to her label. He then toured in support of MIA and a 2007 Color tour, and in 2008 People vs. Money tour. He has since headlined his own shows and appeared at the Splash Festival. In June 2011, Afrikan Boy released his mixtape, What Took You So Long, and in 2014 released his LP, The ABCD, on Yam Records. He's also contributed to the work of DJ Shadow and Africa Express, alongside artists like Baba Mal, Femi Kuti, Damon Albarn, and Fatoumata Diawara. So AB hails from South London and Woolwich, but is also very much considers himself an African, and this is evident in the texture of the music as well as the lyrics. You may be familiar with his work through tracks such as Hustle and Hit 'Em Up, and in some ways I'm going to let Ekow and Eashan and Fikayomi sort of explore the music because they're far better equipped to do that than I. I'll be interested in thinking about, as extraordinary as the music is, AB's story and his journey to being an artist. So what some of you may not know is that he's also a mentor in schools, in particular for young boys and men, with a focus on mental health and helping kind of young boys in schools, communities in South London avoid going down pathways that relate to crime or drugs, etc. He's also volunteered in refugee camps and slums, including the Calais Jungle in Lagos, in the Kibera slums in Nairobi, and the Kakuma refugee camp. His work there has included mentoring, teaching, and coaching, and this has some overlap with my own interests in thinking about theatre as an avenue for migrants and refugees to articulate and explore their experiences. AB is quite savvy about the business world. He runs his own record label, but at the same time, he supports and mentors emerging artists. So it gives me great pleasure, AB, a really warm welcome to you and a huge thanks to you for giving up your time today. And my first question, maybe just to get things going with the conversation, is about your journey as an artist. How did you make it? What obstacles did you face? How have you overcome these?
What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon, Grand Rising. Hope everyone's blessed. Thanks, sir, for the question. So my journey, I guess I got to rewind and take everyone back to probably year 6 Afrikan Boy. So just before I got to secondary school. And I was writing lyrics, you know, nothing in particular, but I was definitely influenced by early garage days, which is the genre that later on influenced, one of the genres that later on influenced grime, and then later on influenced drill, and so on and so forth. And also heavily influenced by just UK pop music, and then African music that my dad would play, so like Fela Kuti, Bob Marley, and 90s R&B that my mum would love. So that was kind of just me musically, but I didn't know all of those things were influencing me when I started making music. So when I got to secondary school, and I schooled in Southeast London, a school that's no longer here now, called Black Ink Blue Coats, and there was always banter in the playground between well, classically Nigerians, Ghanaians, or just Africans versus Jamaicans, because Jamaicans could take on the whole world. So, you know, and there was always this kind of banter going on. So what I started to realize is actually, you know, being the African kid back then for me, which was a good 15 years ago, we're talking of 2000, between 1999 and let's say like 2005, which was the end of my secondary school year when I finished year 11. Being the African kid, being the African boy was not cool. You know what was cool? For your name to be Jeremiah, for you to have K-Rolls, you know, and the Caribbean culture in the UK at the time is something that I definitely thrived off, tapped into, looked up to, athletes, just everything music-wise. It was a culture that was well accepted, and we know. And at that time, as African Boy, I felt that was the dominant Black culture here in the UK. So I wanted to go up against the grain. And when I started writing more lyrics in year 9, year 10, I kind of wanted to include more of my personality and more of my heritage and my culture, which actually was bigger than just me and included all my classmates, teachers, and just everything, just our whole life whilst we are here in the UK. So I made a conscious decision of calling myself Afrikan Boy, spelt with a K. Now, when I did that, loads of people thought it was a joke. Loads of people thought, people reacted to me like how people react to Michael Dapper, man's not hot, you know, because he's a comedian, but then he took his comedic act and went into the music field. You see, whereas I was an artist, but I'm funny. You know, so people took me like Michael Dapper and didn't know whether I was serious or not, because who calls themselves African Boy? You know, you can call yourself DWE, Wiley, Temper T, but African Boy, it's just not cool. Like, who does that? He must be a joke thing. So I had a lot of, I played on that, on the elements of kind of like taking these things that nobody would talk about in their lyrics because it wasn't cool. So for example, going to Lidl. Not specifically shoplifting in Lidl, but just knowing and acknowledging that your parents go to Lidl. You're gonna get run in the playground. Ah, you shopping Lidl, bro, you're broke, you're immigrant, so on and so forth. But it was a reality. It was a reality that many of us were not sharing in school because it was, you know, it's not cool. So I wanted to bring these things to the forefront as African Boy and start including things like my full name in my grime lyrics, including the fact that we are poor, you know, we are on free school dinners, you know, I don't wear Nike, you know, sometimes the clothes is fake, you know, I come from Nigeria, you know, this is where I'm from. So I started to include more things and the things I eat. I think that's one of my favorite things, talking about pounded yam, egusi, jollof rice. I'm always putting it in my lyrics, and it helped me to balance out my identity as a Black British boy and as well as an African boy, you know, because grime is definitely a UK essence thing, and I'm definitely UK. But how can I wanted to expand, and this is in relation to adding to history. You see, I wanted to know that as me calling myself African Boy with my life that I have, anybody else in the world can just Google that and then they can find an artist, and the artist is dropping music, is dropping lyrics that help you to elevate your state of mind. So I wanted to be known in history just by existing and being authentically me. So that was one of the reasons why I said, oh, there's no one, I was shocked. No one else is called African Boy. I was like, yep, that name is mine forever, you know, like forever. There's only going to be one and only official African Boy, but it's such an ambiguous name that it represents all of us, you know. And for me, that's one of the things I early on began to share in my lyrics is maybe past conversations I heard that my mum was talking about, maybe relatives from Nigeria or things that I went through in college with, have been friends with immigrants from other countries like Sudan, Algeria, Nigeria, and things like that. And growing up in a very multicultural area, all of these things really impacted my music earlier on, which set me quite apart from my class, my group, my peers that I came up with, such as Tiny Temper, etc. You know, so I became this kid that came from, it's a grime MC, come from Southeast London, but I'm talking about immigration, I'm talking about pounded yam, I'm talking about different things that is identifying the real reality that we live in. Because I just wanted to feel that my whole self was represented in this musical space, in this genre space. So I continued to play around with these ideas. I wrote one day I went to Lidl. I put it on MySpace back in the day, which is the equivalent to SoundCloud. And the track started to really spread. For context for you guys listening, this is pre-YouTube. YouTube came out in 2005, 2006, if I believe. So pre-YouTube. It's actually one of the first meme, viral, whatever video on YouTube. Little, that was it, you know. And so the way it got shared was through people just sending it to each other through MSN, which is probably like your equivalent of WhatsApp, and people sharing it and telling people to listen to it. And it really is the way the track spread is what every artist wishes and prays for when they make and release music, is that it organically gets shared and you're not having to force market your product. You know, people actually share it. You know, it's a people song. I don't see that I own it. I see people own that song. So with my musical taste and my experience, I caught the ear of MIA, British Sri Lankan artist who has a very colorful family history, with her father being a freedom fighter, one of the freedom fighters and rebels in a civil war in Sri Lanka. So her perspective in music was quite politically charged. And one day I went to Lidl, caught her ears for that reason, because it was I wasn't writing it for no political notion, but my life and my expression as an artist can be political. So she, I think, saw the political branch of my music from this young 16, 17-year-old British-born Nigerian kid, you know, and she kind of saw the potential with that and included me on her second album, Color, which ended up being a Grammy-nominated album. At that time, MIA was weird to me because she was not grime, and that was it. If you're not grime, I ain't got time, you know? So I didn't even listen to rap then. I was just like, grime, that was it. And at that point, I was in a state of experimenting. I started doing live shows through people wanting to book me, and I charged them like a fee, and I go perform like 2 songs. All I had was the Little song, and then I'd made up 2 other songs that I could hold the stage for like 15, 20 minutes with. And when MIA hit me up, I didn't know her as an artist or how big she was or anything like that, but I heard her voice and I thought this could be an interesting collaboration. Again, I wanted to push the boundaries and add to the history. Anywhere Afrikan Boy is, I'm adding to a history. I'm creating the history, actually, because then when people look back, they can say, oh yeah, that was that Nigerian kid that did this, that did that, that did this, that. And then for me, I'm adding to the history for generations looking back. So I collaborated with her, probably one of the best verses of my career. And people have told me that my verse on Hustle is one of the first times, and my verse on Paper Planes, one of the first times that they heard African accent on a Western pop record. The record I was on was sampled by Jay-Z, Lil Wayne. I'm on a track with 50 Cent because of that, T.I., and the whole hip hop royalty when they performed it at the Grammys in 2009. Now, being somebody that came onto that track, as a London kid, I could have rapped about whatever I wanted to rap about, but I chose to bring Afrikan Boy out. I chose to channel the energy and tell stories, you know, because before Black Lives Matter became a slogan, the energy is something that my career represents, because it's telling stories from different people around the world, you know, and making sure that if you share a story, then that story can be heard. And if that story can be heard, then that means that there's connection, and that means that you understand that this person exists. Similar to the projects that My Start charity do with sending artwork from Kakuma refugee camp to schools down in like Dulwich College, for example, for you guys to take a look at, because then you know they exist. And then when you send a letter back, they know that you know that they exist. And that's a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's about representation, you know, and I think surely after working with MIA, I started to understand my impact, but then I also started to notice that I was beginning to feel a bit alienated from the developing now Afrobeat scene in the UK, in which many of the peers, many of the top artists within the scene today, if they come from the UK, they will always state with huge respect, and I always accept it with humbleness to say, you were the pioneer, Afrikan Boy. Because before anybody was doing it, you gave us One Day I Went to Lidl. You gave us an artist name. You gave us an unapologetic expression. You gave us the idea that, oh, hang on, let me show my own African self. let me become Stormzy. Let me become Naira Marley. You know, let me become Fuse OGD. Let me become who I am. Let me be who I am. You know, so, but with that authenticity and pioneering, I naturally took a different path musically because I always felt a little bit alienated as well as absolutely connected from the UK urban scenes, such as the grime scene, the Afrobeat scene of now, the drill scene. I'm an alternative artist within these scenes. Naturally, I'm a part of all the scenes because I'm me, but my artistic output does not necessarily fit within those brackets. Now, did I have an issue with that growing up, being an artist? Yeah, at times. And then at times you turn around and you remember how unique and awesome you are, and you appreciate that. You know, I really appreciate the fact that I'm unique and I am awesome, and I can't help but to be unique. I think that's such a special thing in itself. Like I just can't help it, you know. So it can be challenging. It disappoints me at times when, like the Mobile Awards, for example, nominated my first album, The ABCD, as in the category of Best African Act. Now, I was happy to be nominated at the Mobiles for Afrikan Boy, but to be nominated in the Best African Act category as a British-born Nigerian, I felt Tiny Temper, Skepta, all my British-born Nigerian brothers, for their different musical works, they should have also been in the Best African Act category. Now, the point I'm trying to make is, I think because my name was Afrikan Boy, he's Afrikan Boy, I think there's that categorization. And an artist like myself, it grinded my gears because I'm a very experimental white artist. My whole journey is to break the boundaries of what people think African music should be like, or what Black music should be like, or what an artist called Afrikan Boy, what type of music do you expect him to be like? I'm gonna do the total opposite and do punk rock or something, you know, and speak Yoruba, you know, and really break those boundaries. So to have an album that actually was nothing to do with Afro beats, it was a very alternative album with sounds ranging from hip hop to trap to dance to electro to funk, and just to kind of put that in the Best African Acts category alongside artists that are doing Afro beats that are coming from the continent, for me was very disappointing, but it was an indication, and I think an example of the kind of challenges that I face in my career, being called Afrikan Boy and doing the music that I do, and how people perceive my music. And you know, again, my culture, my artistry, right down from the first songs that I made to the most popular ones of Lidl, is all about expanding on stereotypes, breaking stereotypes, and also kind of expanding what the expectations of what people thought they would expect one's artistry to feel like. I'm gonna pause there to see if any of you guys have anything to say.
So, AB, I just wanted to find out, where did you first listen to grime? Like, what was your first introduction? Was it a school playground? Was it at home?
Wow, that's a great question, Ekow. The first time, man, it would have been between, wow, I've never been asked that question before. It would have probably been between the school playground and probably radio, 93 Deja Vu, so pirate radio stations. That was how I used to listen to grime. I'd listen to those sets. Before I was into grime, I was heavily into So Solid Crew. I always missed them out in my evolution of music, actually, in my bios. So Solid Crew was heavily into them, and Oxide and Neutrino. So that was actually my introduction to grime and rap, because the So Solid Crew album was a grime album. It's like the precursor to all the sounds that came. And then, so there was that. Channel U was the place I listened to grime. That's probably the best place I can say it got in my head, from visually to attitude to everything. Channel U, and then supplemented by the radio sets. And also we used to have a lot of DVDs. So there was Risky Roads DVD, there was Lord of the Mics DVDs, and these were the era of cameramen and entrepreneurs that birthed us.
AB, I have to ask, Kano or Wiley?
Kano. Kano, all day. all day. I work with Wiley's dad. Wiley's my boy, but Kano's my boy. Kano for me is one of my inspirations. Wiley's an inspiration. Remember, there would be no one day I went to Lidl without the beat, and that beat was made by Wiley.
Fair enough.
You see what I'm saying? So I wouldn't have a career if Wiley didn't make that beat and I chose that beat because that beat was banging. But Kano, come on, Kano, all day. Kano's the lyrics. So these are the guys that got me excited about grime. You can still see I still turn to a 15-year-old when you mention their names and I think about the energy they used to make me want to do. All I had to figure out was how could I make it real to me? I'm such an authentic artist that I don't like to talk about, I guess, the typical stuff that people want to talk about or the industry promotes that's going to be successful. So like girls and drugs and making money and I'm this rich. Or actually rewind to grime. I'm a bad man. I'm going to stab you up. I'm going to put you in a headlock, fam. I'm from Greenborough. You know, I had the pass to say all these things because I seen it and I roll with people. So I could officially say these lyrics with my chest, but it didn't correspond with the whole of me. So I found it easier to make all the angry MCs laugh, you know, and be that character rather than trying to pretend, I guess, to be something that I didn't feel comfortable with being. Yes, Fikayo.
I would like to ask, in your secondary school, were you caught up in any bad influences with like your friends or students?
Great question, man. I'd probably say at times I could have been a bad influence. I left school with the top 20 marks in GCSE, just for some context. So I mean, I got like 13 GCSEs. I did some early in year 10. So I was very academically, had my head screwed on, and that's something that I always carry with me. I think the turn for me and bad influences probably came in year 10. I think like just when, I think there's a growth spurt around that age. And I started, aside from the shoplifting, little things like that, I joined a gang, Cherry Orchard Boys, Cherry Boys. So I used to kind of hang around and I used to see things. But again, I was never the one to really get into it. Because naturally that just wasn't where my heart is at, and I'm such an authentic person. So those were kind of like the bad influences, and I was immersed in an area that there was a lot of gang violence. There was like Somalian boys who would be chasing me. I couldn't go to my own town center in Woolwich for like, don't know, like plus 5 years. I used to just avoid the whole town center. Coming back from school every day was a headache. And it's not because I'm beefing no one, it's just because by then I'm known in the area. I got a high top. People know me as Afrikan Boy. I've been known as Afrikan Boy since I've been 15 years old, from my area then to the world. So I was associated with this area of people. And even though people from all areas like me because I don't cause no one trouble, but when I was that age where you're in the firing line of these things, it was difficult. And how I navigated through it really came towards the end of college when I went into university. So I started working with MIA my first year of college. Then she took me to America and I was on tour and I jumped on stage with Dizzy Rascal. Remember the stage I'm at right now? Dizzy Rascal, Kano, Wiley, them lot are gods to me, like fully. Come on, I watched them every day before going to school. They had music videos. You know how much it was to shoot a music video back then? Now it's easy. It was money. So to have a music video, you were a serious artist. So to be doing what I do in my state of mind, and Dizzy Rascal's just come off a stage, like Dizzy Rascal in his height, like what Stormzy is to you guys, what Stormzy was 2 years ago, that Stormzy even, that is just on his height. And then that same stage, that same microphone is what I'm gonna spit on. Yeah, how can I go back to the area the same? I went back to college with a different state of mind now. My state of mind was now, I'm an artist. I'm gonna really ignore all of this street stuff that's happening. I'm gonna get my A-levels, which is difficult. I'm gonna go to uni, because that was what I wanted to do at the time. Tiny Temper, my friend, chose to not go uni at that point of time because we're in the same year. And he deferred, and then I think in that year he may pass out. Now I was in uni, touring and studying psychology and sociology. I was a superstar on campus. It was fun, right? But when I left the area, I spat my lyrics to people who do not know where I'm from. And they appreciated me and took me on board like any other artist. When I came back to the area, it helped me, Fikayo, to continue to just keep on a path that wasn't going to be detrimental to my future. Meaning any bad influences that were around me or possibly could have been there, I'm always more likely to be, then at that point, a good influence. You know, because fast forward many years now, all the peers that used to see me, took it 15 years on in life, I've got a career, I'm active, I'm doing things. Your work speaks for itself at some point in life. You know what I mean? But of course, there was influences when you're young. But I think for me, the main focus was just staying true to who I am. You know, how my parents raised me. My mom didn't raise me to be no fool. And believe me, I got beats on many of those occasions. Like shoplifting from work experience was not cool. I got beat. Discipline was a part of it because, and that was one of the driving factors that made me go to uni, because I wanted to continue to add to the legacy, So, yeah, we had fun, but I was not one of the youths that on GCSE results day, they were crying. Even though the whole term they were saying, I don't care, man, I'm a bad man. I don't care, man, I'm a bad man. Then why are you crying then when you flopped? Don't cry. You should still be a bad man, I was not one of those people. I was proud to open my letter and seal my results. I was proud my name was on the top 20 achievers of my academic year. Achieving that and working hard is something that makes me proud, and I think it's something that everybody actually wants to do. It's just sometimes we're scared to put in the work and to do it, and we're scared to show that we're vulnerable. We're scared to show that we don't know maths that good, we don't know English that good, but it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not know something that well, because there's always space to learn. So
yeah. How did your psychology degree give you kind of an insight into your struggle, especially as a minority and other minority struggles?
Oh man, thanks, Eashan, man. I think my psychology degree and the sociology degree, it just helped me to add a socio-economic and a psychological layer onto how I view the world. I think I naturally had a perspective of viewing the world, which was a bit interesting as an artist, which I think is where a lot of my success came from, on my originality. But naturally, psychology helps me, I think, more on a personal level. Sociology helps me to see the cause and effect of things. So if I want to write a song about the state of Africa, or about what independence means to Nigeria, or about Black Lives Matter, or, any of these things, sociology and psychology definitely helps me to, I feel, to play around with my listener sometimes, to play around with their psychology, especially called Afrikan Boy. There's loads of different things that I could do just to throw someone off, or just to really break a sort of a stereotype or a sort of a psychological way of thinking. So I think sociologically, it definitely, like I said, just helped me to have a more informed sociological perspective on the society in which I was writing about, and on the society in which I'm living in. Psychologically, I can psychoanalyze myself and to see how I'm dealing with things, and also body language. But yeah, definitely on a day-to-day, it just helps me also to understand, again, the political climate of the country that I'm in, and also how these things from top down affect people's psychology also on a day-to-day, and why. And, I think the more I understood these things, the more I could take certain things less personally and just see it for what it is, But it definitely helped me to add layers of perspectives to my music when it comes to talking about certain issues.
So, AB, I was wondering what your perspective on university was, especially in our society, because the path you chose in music didn't necessarily need you to go to university. And the community you came from, it's a different outlook, so.
Right. No, I didn't need to go music, but I went to university because it was going to be a fun experience, and I was gonna live on campus and, you know, go the whole 9 yards and stop living at mum's for the first time in my life. And, you know, that was something to experience in itself. And also remember, I'm not going to my town center. I have high anxiety leaving my house in the area that I'm from because I don't want to get stabbed. It was a high rate of stabbings, and, you know, it's kind of almost like the peak. My generation was the peak. Things simmer down and they're starting to peak back up now, again, in this day and age. But going to university just outside of London was a big breather for me. Like, just being able to exist, go corner shop, not having to, you know, go Tesco, go to a town center, walk around. You know, I could be free. I could be free like when I'm free, when I'm outside doing shows in other countries. That's why I used to love music as well, because I get to travel and leave the area, you know? So yeah, my perspective in uni, I think was, yeah, I grew in uni. I think that's when I released What Took You So Long. And the album was called What Took You So Long because I'd amassed all these cool fans and there was a lot of ambiguity around me, particularly when I was working with MIA. So I felt people were waiting for a long time for my first musical works. I didn't sign with labels that wanted to sign me at the time, mainly because I knew musically I didn't feel ready to be like, to produce an album. I didn't feel ready to be the artist that I basically am now. You know, I knew I didn't want to sign in that, and I knew they just wanted to sign me for little, and then they were going to make it some kind of cheap stereotype video or something, and, you know, and then just, nah, I didn't want it to go out. So I think I always had a strong sense of what I wanted to do, and I've not really been afraid to not jump at a check or not jump at money or jump at an opportunity just because, you know, it seems like I should. You know, I've always been willing to sacrifice these things for a greater purpose that's, you know, longer down the line.
So
yeah,
to other people that are interested in going to university,
yeah,
what would be your advice in like helping them know if that's the path they need to take?
Well, when I went to university, yeah, it cost me £9,000 for 3 years. Now, would I study something else? Questionable, but I have a passion for psychology. I chose what I felt like doing, right? So like a vocation, you know, rather than maybe what on paper was going to bring in the big bucks. But that's not, it depends what way you want to look at it. Now, it cost me £9,000 for my whole degree. That's costing any of you lot, like, for your first year, I think. You know what I'm saying? So it's costing you lot like 27 bags to start to read the same books I read. You know? We're moving into a society that's more skills-based. Okay, so when we want to look at a big company like Google, who says, we're not looking at your degrees, but we're looking at what your skill set is and what you can bring to the table. So what does that tell you? It doesn't mean you shouldn't study. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you shouldn't acquire skills, but there's more flexibility as to how you go about acquiring those right now. A lot of traditional, in my opinion, a lot of traditional ways of doing things are falling down. The age is turning. And you just have to look at government websites. You just have to look at, you know, state manifestos and this thing, and big companies. Let's just forget the government website. Just look at what the big companies are doing. Look at how the big companies are hiring. You know, we're moving into a tech space. So I think I'm not for how much it's costing to get the degrees. You know, I was just lucky to be born when I was lucky to be born. I have younger brothers and sisters who are gonna, you know, if they want to go and go to university, or some of them who have, you know, you have to do what you have to do. I think depending on what you want to study, you see, a lot of people do try and give you the advice, and I'm sure you guys have access to good careers advice, people that would kind of give you the ladders to different careers and options you may be thinking about, which is cool and does help. I just don't know if it made sense to me when I was in your age and your shoes doing it. So I just went along with what I was interested in doing that was going to motivate me and keep me interested. And I did research into that course so I knew what it entailed, because sometimes you might think the course is going to be A, but then it's totally B, you know? But look, we're also in the age where a lot of you guys are seeing your peers become entrepreneurs. you know what I mean, become big time celebrities using social media and using the platform. As someone who's always been an entrepreneur, I'm the kid that sold donuts to teachers. I'm the kid that sold tracksuit. I sold fake Nike tracksuits to my PE teacher. Like, I'm that kid. I'm a hustler. I own my own label. I get paid for writing lyrics and spitting them on a microphone. I get paid for my hobby. I'm a hustler. I'm an entrepreneur in the finest term of it. No one can tell me nada. I file my taxes and do everything. You understand? So I understand that there's this other side of doing things, but I think as long as you have some skills and knowledge, even as a hustler, as an entrepreneur, I'm still looking at online courses. I'm still looking at accredited courses because I'm also an educator. I also run an educational institution. So for me, however way you can upskill yourself and empower yourself is great because you will thank yourself for it later on down the line. Do you know what I mean? But I think I've always linked everything I've done with a passion of mine. And that's why it's slowly I can see things linking up. Yeah, I could have thought I wanted to do this or wanted to do that. But again, I did everything with, I've done everything connected to a passion. So it's helped me to stay consistent. If you look at what I've spent my last 10 years of my life doing, there's connections to it. And that's because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And that aids me to be consistent. And consistency would then aid more growth and success. You understand? So yeah, just take time with it, man. And if you start it and it doesn't work, try again. But I think have that balance. Look, like I said, I went to university. My mum wasn't going to have it no other way. Let me just break it down to you. I don't know what that conversation was going to look like. Say, Mama, I don't want to go to university. I want to be an artist. Don't get me wrong. My mum supported my dream. She let me go to countries alone. She let people that she don't know take care of her firstborn son. Coming from, you know, Fikayomi, you know what I'm talking about now. Like your Nigerian mom letting you do these things with these weird people. It's not what she respected my mom, you know what I mean? She allowed that. And I wanted to repay that back also by going to uni. And it wasn't a chore because I wanted to also live the uni life. Now, Tiny Temper, just as an example, if he was my twin, he decided not to go to uni. He invested in his business, he worked hard in his business, and he's reaping the fruits of it. He may decide to go back later on if he chooses to, but obviously it's not the be-all and end-all. Going to university is not the be-all and end-all of one's life, you know? So that's why I say be passionate about what you're getting yourself involved to. A lot of people work jobs, they pay the bills, but they're not happy, okay? So yeah, just make sure that you could feel passionate about it because that will help you get through the difficult times of even finishing your course and things like that. It's difficult to be an artist for 15 years and not win a Grammy yet. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but I'm passionate about what I do. There was times when no one's checking for Afrikan Boy. Who's Afrikan Boy? That one washed now. One day I went, but we come back and we hit him with another one. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm passionate about what I do. I know you're not going to feel it. And if you're passionate, nothing's going to stop you. My younger brother went to uni and he got a first class in mathematics and finance, okay? He failed his first year twice because he partied too much in Leeds. He failed it. He could have continued, but he said, nah. He started again, went up to second year. His second year results were not quite what he wanted. He knew that if he accepted them, it would be extremely hard for him to get the first he truly wanted. My younger brother started again. Bro, this guy is a madman. He started again. But when it was his time to collect his degree, first class, Koinde Ajose, see when the team waits, hey, I had to celebrate. And I know people might say, oh, why are you being typical, man? Just being black, man, whatever, man. But listen, yeah, I know what it took my little brother to achieve what he done. And only if you're really passionate about something will you really, you know what I mean? Take it and just push yourself till you get it to where you want to get at, you know?
Obviously, this is the rise of Captain Africa, and obviously you're quite an influential artist. So because you have, you know, influence, and especially as a black artist, you know, what do you think that you and other people with influence can do to kind of promote the Black Lives Matter movement and, you know, equality?
I think any little thing, man, any little thing, you know, any little thing. I'm the type of guy that if I see two youths on the road arguing, and they're in my neighborhood or girls or whatever, or squabble, I'll step in. If I can, I'll step in. I'll put on my uncle voice, you know, just be active and be aware and care. Do you know what I mean? So if that caring leads you to share online, then do that. There's a huge police brutality unrest that's happening in Nigeria right now with this special armed robbery unit or whatever. Yeah, we call them SARS, right? So they were there to kind of help local Nigerians deal with the armed robberies. Okay, now SARS are not just them, but they are renownedly known for brutalizing, shooting, killing, slapping, unjustly arresting innocent citizens. So if I went to Nigeria now with my dreadlock like this, they'd be like, hey, what are you doing there? You know what I mean? And if I now talk with a British accent, it's even more trouble. I could be getting slapped for nothing. So there's a lot of protests happening. And the way various artists are using their platform, like myself, I went down to the protest. I do an Instagram live. We will talk. You know, you kind of just do anything where you feel it, that you feel appropriate. Someone like myself, my whole career is Black Lives Matter, like, you know, because I'm Afrikan Boy. So anything I do, I'm sort of carrying the name Afrikan Boy in my head. So anything I do, I'm thinking about representation, whether good or bad, it's still representation, you know? So I think people just be moved to research. You don't have to be guilty if you don't feel moved. You don't have to feel guilty if you don't, you know about everything, because I don't. Do you know what I mean? But ultimately, it's really like I choose to exist on this earth as a humanitarian for the people. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's why I go to certain refugee camps. That's why I went to Calais. That's why I go to Kakuma, because I want to see people for people. Do you know what I mean? I want to understand their situation, because then it helps to kind of break these kind of walls. But, you know, I don't only focus on African-American lives mattering. Do you know what I mean? Black Lives Matter is just, it's even a shame that they even exists. You understand? Because it just is. Like Iranian lives matter, German lives matter. I know we're not going to say all lives matter, but that should just be the fundamental. But I'm not saying all lives matter to downgrade Black Lives Matter now, because people want to use that, but we had to come, because if your knee is hurting, you're not going to say, yeah, but my head matters, but your head is okay. Attend to the knee. You understand? Ideally, everyone should just know this in their head. Life matters, period. Sea life matters, animal life matters, plant life matters. You understand? Life matters, that's why we're here. But because of the state of society that we're in, yeah, everyone just do what is naturally them, because for me, I know even if it's one youth that's looking up to me in my area that I have a positive effect on, like, that's cool. Do you know what I mean? Each one teach one. It doesn't have to be a grand, you know, thing. Not everyone can be Tupac or Martin Luther or da-da-da-da, and they need a team. So for me, it's just about, and also adding to history, yo, just to bring it back. It's about adding to the history as well. Do you know what I mean? So whether you're going to a protest, or whether you're going to make a piece of art, whether you're going to create something, you know, always have it in your mind that you're adding to history just even by existing. Do you know what I mean? So, and we definitely don't want to repeat history, you know? And we don't want to repeat history. So it's important that we bring our originality whilst we're alive in these times to add to the history, to add to our people's experiences, you know? And that's just kind of what I try and do in just in any little way that I can do it. You know what I mean? Just try and add to someone's experiences, and to keep an open mind for myself, you know, so that I can acknowledge life mattering and not shutting it off and feeling, you know, threatened by just, you know, something that everyone should have simple empathy for, you know. But as Afrikan Boy touring in Europe and touring in hard places, you kind of get up front, close and personal with it. You know, people don't even want to call me my artist name because they feel a way about it. Oh, can I call you something else? I don't want to say Afrikan Boy. Like, no, call me Afrikan Boy. Call me Afrikan Boy. It's okay. It's okay. So But yeah, man, everyone just do what you can. Don't feel pressured. Don't feel bad because you never went to this or you never went to that protest. You know, just do what you can to have a conversation, share a conversation, and to be aware. And, you know, if you can call it out when you see it, then you can call it out when you see it.
Great. I think we've got one more question from Fikayomi. In the meantime, audience members, you're very much welcome and encouraged to put your questions through to the Q&A, and then someone on the panel will pick them up. A couple have come through already. So while Fikayomi is asking that question and it's being answered, please feel free to type your questions in. Fikayomi.
I have a couple of questions that I'm going to give you at once. The first one is quite easy. Have you ever been stop and search, and how do you feel about that?
I always feel violated, man. I was stopped and searched on 23 Samuel Street back in 2003. Yeah, it annoys me. Of course, it happens. You know, I'm driving. Actually, this time I was about your age, Fikayomi. I was about your age, coming back from school on my street. Police stops me. Yeah, mate. Yeah, we've basically been told that there's been a robbery in the building, and he basically looks like you. That was his exact words. How do you expect me to feel? You're just a you. It's violating. What do you mean there's been a robbery and he looks like me? Like, do you understand what I'm talking about? And what can you even say? He's a whole police officer. You're a 14-year-old boy just trying to go home and eat some small rice and stew. And my man's, you're my mom to see me with police. Is he okay? So it is frustrating. I don't like I don't like feeling criminalized. I don't like being stopped and searched and people walking past you and people, oh yeah, I bet he's another naughty black you, isn't he? No, I don't like them things. It's violation. And I have a son called Fikayomi as well. Well, how would I feel if he was being stopped and searched, which he may end up? You understand? So I think the most empowering thing we can do in those situations is to proper know our rights. Like there's certain things you can say to the police officers and ask for that, you know, they have to abide by. Do you know what I mean? So those things help us because you can outright refuse if you have the particular language and the ways to do so. But yeah, it's happened. But we move on. You know, that's where psychology and sociology helps me to erase taking it too personally. I not be the first one that's happened to now. And I understand the sociology and I understand the psychology of why it's happening. You see what I'm saying? So for me, I can level up my thinking and not take it too personally. So it's higher learning all the way, higher knowledge.
That's a great answer. Also, when you are in like secondary school and when you're discouraged about your name and about you rapping, starting, later on, like when you're successful now, have you met any of those who discouraged you in the past? Have you met them?
Yeah, every day, man. You know what? I think I don't need to. Ed Sheeran and Stormzy sing my song. Do you know what I mean? Like, I knew Ed Sheeran before he blew up. I can say that with my chest. But Ed Sheeran and Stormzy know my song. Like, 50 Cent knows my song. Like, Jay-Z has heard my lyrics. So I'm okay. Like, I don't need to worry about their people. Like, you know what I mean? The lyrics that I was saying, Stormzy has lyrics like, I steal milk from the stew pot. Like, I steal meat from the stew pot. I was saying them kind of things from back in the day. Don't we have J Hus now? Fanta with no heist. That's young African boy there. People say that to me like, yo, that's like young African boy. And I'm like, yeah. So I get to be active while still seeing what my legacy, the legacy that I've helped to build for us, what that has done. Do you know what I mean? And Naira Marley, he said he started doing music when he heard One Day I Went to Lidl. That's when Naira Marley decided he's going to become Naira Marley. And he's one of the biggest stars in Nigeria right now. Do you know what I mean? And he told me that with his own mouth. He said, rah, yeah, that's when I started making music. Because why? He heard himself being represented. So now he stepped up and now represented himself. So yeah, I see bare people.
One last question.
Go on, go through.
Okay, how do you handle or control your actions when people disrespect your perspective?
Always remember, if someone doesn't understand your perspective, it's okay. It's where psychology comes back into it, because you can't take how someone is projecting. All I can be responsible for is what I say. how you take it and how you respond is in that other person's dominion. You understand? And sometimes that other person may not be happy with themselves. So because they're not happy with themselves, they now twist what you said to them and use it to slap your face. To say, no, I'm not. But if you understand that psychology to know, you know what, you're just maybe a bit hurt because maybe what I said had a certain truth in it. Or maybe, you know, something's upset you in the day. Then I can take your abrasive response less personally. So it's always good to know thyself. You understand? The more you continue to know who you are, then it's better to, you know, like keep your energy away from these situations, because all that's going to do is just to drag your energy down. And then what you're saying can get twisted into some next thing, and then you're just ending up just evaporating energy. Like they say, two fools arguing from a distance, or two people arguing from a distance, you don't know which one is the fool, right? So okay.
Great. So questions from the panel. Eashan,
Yes.
do you pick up those?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got someone asking, do you think that the stereotype and expectations of Black British artists has changed? Like seeing artists like David and Stormzy being internationally accepted and supported.
Stereotypes. I don't know how to answer that. Well, look, Black music has always been a dominating and influencing music across all musical genres, period. To a certain extent, artists are only praised if they fit into the capitalist system which runs the music industry at the end of the day. So I rate their successes and everything that they do, because that's another version of me going out there busting up the stage. That's how I see it. You understand? But to a certain extent, to properly own, until radio's not gonna tell me we can't play Afrikan Boy because we got another Afrikan Boy, Fuse ODG. Until radio not gonna say stuff like that to Black artists, I think the only freedom a Black artist has to be successful is the freedom to be exploited by the capitalist system of the music industry. Simple. Because look what they did to Wiley. His whole pages, everything, and there's enough people talking nonsense. Stormzy can get his whole accolades torn down if he has a moment and has a rant. So the only freedom you have is to be exploited. And now that hasn't changed since back in the day. No, unless you own your own stuff and build your own for your people, the music is hard. It's hard. People like myself have been doing great music for years. Great music. But the industry will rather promote stuff that degrades my people. That's how I see it.
Another question from Craig Powers. Afrikan Boy, when will we see more people of color in government, and what will it take for that to happen?
I don't think people in color in government is the issue, you know, because you're talking to a Nigerian and we have police brutality in Nigeria. It's not the white man that's brutalizing Black people in Nigeria. It's Black people. So when do we have more revolutionary minds in government should be the question. Because just because you're skinfolk doesn't mean you're kinfolk. Sorry, I don't care if you're Black or if you're white. What's your mind saying? Do you know what I mean? So I don't think more people of color is the solution, because we had a whole America with a whole Black president, and we had Donald Trump straight after. So no, revolutionary minds, higher thinking, higher learners, people are actually there for the people. Like, what can the Nigerian government do? Should be everybody in Nigerian government is blacker than anyhow, but they're terrorizing and not there, they're oppressing the people. So we need non-oppressors. If you're not an oppressor, I'm for you. You can be blue, yellow, indigo. If you're not oppressing the people, I'm for you. Why should I have beef with you? You're not an oppressor. So for me, we need, you know, yeah, just more revolutionary thinkers. But you know, that's a difficult question because it's the whole system isn't made to benefit the people. So just having people of color in the system that's not really supposed to be benefiting, it's not going to make no difference, because they just feel frustrated. When you talk to a lot of them, the racism that they go through in these things is peak. trust me, like it's peak. They have to kill themselves so many times just to even like be able to be spoken to or go to certain meetings, you know? And I'm just about unapologetic expression, you know? That's what my whole career is about. So more revolutionary thinkers, it's not just a color thing, because that's how they want to colorblind you. We've given in one black person in a movie, they should be all right. No.
Thanks very much. That was great. I think that's probably about all the time that we've got for. So I'm just going to hand over to Eashan to officially say thank you on behalf of the people.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Afrikan Boy, for coming and telling us about your views. I think it's very interesting, and it's always refreshing to have people of color come and say their piece. Talk about their own experiences, especially. I'd also like to thank Ekow, Fikayomi, for asking the questions. So it's good to see young people getting involved, obviously. And also like to say thank you to Miss Beretta and Dr. Cox for helping to organize this. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much. Big thanks.
Thanks to all the people that did attend the talk. I'm sure we all appreciated your company, and we can organize something like this again. Thanks.
Yeah, also listen to his music, I beg.
I beg. Yeah, thank you guys, man. I really appreciate that. Respect to everybody watching. Yeah, man. Stay blessed, stay peace, keep your mind open, and keep having conversations, man. Keep having conversations with interesting people. Go talk to that person you ain't spoken to before, because not everyone's supposed to agree with you. So have these interesting conversations to stretch out your perspectives. That's how we're gonna get, where we need to be, man.
Afrikan Boy, are you gonna have a next song coming out?
Yeah, I got one coming out on Monday. Monday, yeah. Yeah, I got this one coming out on Monday. Video. You guys are gonna like that. It's a little bit of a drill one. It's a drill beat, but I'm speaking about growing up. I'm actually speaking about my experiences, like starting from secondary school. So you lot are gonna feel that one. And there's a little one that I went to little verse there as well. Still, if people didn't know. So yeah, more music to come, man.
Is it gonna be on YouTube?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
What is it called?
It's called Yagayi Freestyle.
Cool.
Yeah. You could pre-save it from that, actually. It's gonna be on Spotify and everywhere on Monday. I'm just gonna send out the link now on my socials. So yeah.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much.
No problem, man.
Talk to you some other time.
Right. Thank you, man.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Peace. Ekow, one love. Fikayomi, bless.
Thank you.
No problem, man.
Small Holland for organizing as well.
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you.
Sue, you don't know.